Hi everyone, today is a short video and this one is entitled Book Series I Will Probably Never Finish Reading. It sounds terrible to actually say I've read 1-2 books in a series and I'm never going to read the rest of them because I just don't want to. But these are the ones that I've, for now, singled out and said, no, I'm not reading these. I'm not reading any more of these. I'm not devoting any more time to a book series. That is just not doing it for me. So first up, I'm going to start with Anita Blake. These are a horror vampire series which seems to go on and on and on, and I reread this with my husband not long ago, thinking I enjoyed it first time round. I must have done because I've picked up a few more books in this series, but on rereading it I just didn't like it. I was bored. I thought actually I remember more happening in this. And just, no, there wasn't enough in it to say, yeah, I really, really like this, because there wasn't. I'm just like, oh, we got to the end there. That was it, really. We might give the second book, The Laughing Corpse, a try, but I've not got really an inclination to want to read the rest of the series, particularly as I've read an awful lot of reviews about how weird it gets a bit later on. So, sorry, Anita. This is going to be a killer for some of you, but the Harry Potter series, I have read book 1. I forced myself to read this while I was at university studying to become a teacher, and it was the biggest slog I have ever done. A book this short should not have taken me over 2 months to read. I wasn't impressed by it. I didn't like the writing style. I thought it was extremely cliched, and I was in my early 20s when I read Harry Potter. You know, it came out when I was an adult. I was the wrong audience to start off with. You know, this was written for 11-year-olds who were about to throw up giving reading. And I wasn't one of those. I was already well reading stuff by then. So this just not appealed to me. However, I will say, for people who love this, for people who got into reading because of these books, that's brilliant, because that's what they were designed to do. JK wrote books for people to read, to encourage people to read, and that is certainly what this series of books did. They do have their place. I fully admit a lot of people love them. They are a great introduction to the younger reader, YA genre. They're a great introduction to fantasy, and they're still very relevant today. The themes that are done in this series are relevant to what is happening in our world now, and I think a lot more people in teenage years should be reading the Harry Potter series just to see actually where things go in the real world, because this certainly explains it very, very clearly. But there we are, but just not for me. Then there's this series, The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I have read City of Bones. I have watched season 1 and 2 of the Shadowhunters series. Yeah, I even have book 2 sat on the shelf waiting for me to read. It's been there about 4 years now. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, I don't care enough about Clary and Jace. I'm not interested in them. I wish there was more on Isabel, because she's so cool and I love her to bits. But not enough to sit and slog my way through these books. They're just boring, sorry. Then there's this series, Twilight. Yeah, a lot of people have loved these books. A lot of people still love these books. So, yay, kudos to you. I started reading this book while stood in the library. It didn't even get taken out of the library because I put it back on the shelf in absolute disgust. I have tried to watch the films. I haven't managed to watch any of them in the right order yet. I just get bored. I'm not interested. Bella does nothing for me as a character. She's just awful. You know, she just doesn't do it for me, and I'm sorry if that offends some of you, but nah. What Twilight did do is start the YA genre. Suddenly there were books that were slightly too grown up to be in the kids department, but not quite grown up enough to be in the adult department. And I would say that Twilight and Harry Potter certainly created the YA genre at a time when it didn't really exist. So without these books, we wouldn't have a whole pile of books that we have now, like Sarah J Maas and all that, I think. Unfortunately, what Twilight did do was bring in a whole pile of copycat, romancy, vampire, paranormal stuff, which, I mean, I don't like Twilight, but some of the stuff out there is pretty dire. And, you know, I might, no, I'm not going to try this again. I'm not interested in it. Then there's this series. This is George R. R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, which, yeah, what do I say? I have read the first 2 books, Game of Thrones, and I think it's Clash of Kings, isn't it the second one? And I didn't enjoy them at all. I like fantasy. I like big epic fantasies. I like multiple points of view in books. I like interesting characters. I like world building. I like supernatural. So why didn't I like these? There's no hope in them. You cannot write a massive book series when all your decent characters have one terrible thing after another thrown at them. When there is no light at the tunnel, things only get worse and worse the further on you go. I'm sorry, I need a little bit of light to cling to in the dark, and when there's absolutely nothing going on where you can cling on to for 2 whole books, and that's a lot of pages to slog through, then I'm not bothered in reading the rest of them. I couldn't care less. If the author cannot care about his main characters enough to give them something to cling to, I can't be bothered to read about them. My husband is ploughing his way through them slowly. Yeah, he is very much, okay, I've started this series, I'm going to finish it. But he completely understands why I don't want to finish this series, and why actually I've moved very much away from ever wanting to watch the TV show. If the show is as dark and as brutal as these books are, then I don't think I want to sit and dedicate an awful lot of viewing time to a show that has no hope. So there we go. And Ember in the Ashes. Yeah, this took me a while to get through. The only way I got through this book was by balancing it with another book. And reading it chapter by chapter that way. I didn't enjoy this. This came recommended on BookTube as a fantasy series, as a rebellion, as a revolution. I read it. I didn't like it. There seemed to be an awful lot of violence in this book for the sake of being violence. The romancy triangle square thingy that started up, yuck. Just yuck. It was awful. So no, I have no intention of reading the rest of this series. I didn't enjoy this book. I'm not going to slog my way through another 2 books to see if it gets any better. Oh, and then there's this one, The Dark Days Club by, this is Alison Goodman. This was one of those books where I got halfway through and thought, really? Am I going to struggle my way through this, or I'm going to give up? You know, halfway is a lot to commit. And this is not a thin book either. And when you get to halfway and you're thinking, I'm bored, nothing's happening, I'm so bored, I had to balance this with another book to get through it. So I read 1 chapter of this and 1 chapter of a book I was loving, because it was the only way I could get through this book. I was bored to tears. This is billed as Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Pride and Prejudice. Now, if you're expecting demon slaying, really? There's hardly anything in here. And when we do get demon slaying, it's all about etiquette. I don't like Pride and Prejudice. This should have been a big warning sign for me, because this is full of etiquette. So much etiquette. Yeah, drove me bonkers. And then there's this one, Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. Again, I hear lots of people raving about this, but very mixed reviews about the end of this series. I'm currently halfway through. And, God, this is a slog. I don't care enough about my main character, really, to warrant keep going on. I'm going to keep going because I might as well finish it now I'm halfway through, but I'm not bothered about reading the next 2 in this series, particularly with the very mixed reviews of the last point in the trilogy. I'm not enjoying it. I'm finding it very hard work to get my head around where this is set or when this is set, because there's reference to what's obviously our world, but there's no idea where this is or how we've got to this stage. It's really frustrating just being given little bits of a back history and you're sitting there going, hold on, how do I put this together? Because it's not adding up. You know, I'm sorry if you like this series, but it's just not doing it for me. And something that I am noticing an awful lot, probably because I've read an awful lot of YA fantasy recently, is this reference to violence in war and particularly rape. And it seems to be now a fantasy series cannot have a reference to a war without reference to rape as well. Now, I'm not naive. I know these things happen in war and in countries where they are occupied, and that things are pretty grotty for those that are being oppressed. I know this happens in the real world, but it's almost getting rammed down my throat in my fantasy books. And to be honest, I kind of want to get away from the real world. This is why I read fantasy. But I don't need it so brutally shoved down my throat that this is what's going on in war, when I know that's going on in war. So yeah, I didn't enjoy some of this either. So there we are. They are my series that I will probably never ever finish. Sorry if that hurts some people. That's just how I feel. I'm really chuffed if you like these series and you have read these series. You know, I have nothing against people who have enjoyed these series, but for me, they didn't do it. And I have too many books to read to wade my way through books that I don't want to read. So there we go. As promised, the next 3 book bloggers I want to put links down to in the description box, and I want you guys to go and visit them and say hi, are Forever Books. This is a very white and pink page, but has lots of book reviews on it. Just lots and lots of book reviews from lots of different genres, and very pretty to look at. Then there is Life as a Moon Kestrel. This is a very interesting page. There's a lot of arty stuff on there and book stuff on there. But what was most interesting is this person likes to experience as many book boxes as possible. And she reviews them. So if you're a bit confused or not sure which book subscription box to go for, may I check out Life as a Moon Kestrel? Because she is reviewing book subscription boxes out there and does a very good job of it. And then there's the Booktarian. She is a bilingual book blogger. So if you are Portuguese out there and looking for book reviews, go and check out the Booktarian. She's very thorough with her reviews and is pretty much in a lot of other book blogging communities and part of the BookTube community as well. So she's very much on the ball of what's going on with readathons and things like that. I will leave all those links for you down below in the description box so you can go and visit them. So there we are. Any comments that you want to put, please leave them down below. I'm always up for discussion and reasons why I should read some of these series. You know, you might change my mind, but you never know. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and happy reading. Bye.